Hello, and welcome to the 22nd episode of Morrowind Modding Manors, where we just take a look at 3 different player house mods to try and help you find your ideal home in Morrowind. As always, I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy, and today we're taking a look at specifically faction-based housing mods, as picked by our patrons on Patreon. Speaking of, we do have a new link down below where you can submit theme suggestions for episode 23 of Morrowind Modding Manors. And of course, if you'd like to check out and vote on future themes, get access to behind-the-scenes content, and just all that fun stuff, consider supporting the channel on Patreon at patreon.com/morrowindmodding. Anyway, down links and timestamps are just down below, so let's begin with our first housing mod, which today is Faction Living Quarters by Ortiee, or Ortiee. You may have heard of this one before. We actually showcased it way back in 2014 for the 10th ever episode of Morrowind Modding Showcases, and at the time it was a rather underrated mod, though it has gained some popularity since those bygone days. In any event, this housing mod basically adds a player home for each non-vampire associated faction in the game, including each of the Great Houses, the Tribunal Temple, Imperial Cult, Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, Imperial Legion, Ragtong, and Thieves Guild. You can unlock each of these player homes, which are mostly simple one-room abodes, by joining each faction. Prior to joining, these homes are locked and cannot be accessed. This gives you some very simple but cozy and convenient player housing when you first join a faction. And there are some extra features here, like an alchemy lab with an ingredient sorter and basic alchemical equipment in the Mages Guild, or an animated practice dummy in the Fighters Guild player home that you can just, use to whack and wail on, or an escape tunnel underneath the Thieves Guild player home. For the most part, these player homes are simply added to one of the faction guild halls, usually as just a new door that'll lead you to your new accommodations. And as such, I should mention that this will conflict with some interior overhaul mods. Namely, this will conflict with Southwall, Den of Iniquity, Atmospheric Southwall, Lucifer's Guild Overhauls, and, other mods like that. Though compatibility patches should be pretty simple to make, since all this mod adds, for the most part, is a new door to each interior. In any event, there's about 10 new player homes for you to use here, one for almost all of Morrowind's non-vampire factions, and each one, while small, has a unique design, a bit of storage, a bed, and a teleport ring, that you can use to teleport back. In addition, there's a basic alchemical set and lab for the Mages Guild, and of course, the practice dummy for the Fighters Guild. And this is just a really useful player home, for players just starting out and needing a place to stay. And it gives a really nice, benefit to joining a faction early on, instead of having to wait until much later to build a stronghold. Overall, this is a balanced, lore-friendly, and fairly comprehensive faction-based housing mod, and arguably the best one out there for faction-based housing. So I definitely, just recommend checking it out, if you haven't already. Next up, we have Archmage's Tower by Arcimaestro Antares. A bit more faction-specific, compared to our last mod. This particular mod replaces the previously empty tallest tower in Ebonheart with a new player home, specifically for when you become the Arch-Mage of the Mages Guild. Once you do, you can talk to Duke Dren to get the key to the tower, and inside, you'll find a fairly simple set of living quarters with a dining room, a roaring fire, and upstairs, a modest-sized bedroom with a bed, a modest bit of storage, and just another cozy little fireplace. Of course, this being a home for an Archmage, there's a little more to see here beyond such bare-bone, accommodations. And downstairs, you'll find an alchemy lab, complete with an ingredient garden, where you can harvest a variety of plants, along with an actual lab, with the whole, boiling cauldron thing, alchemical equipment, an assistant, study, and enchanting station. Just all the essentials that you need in a magic lab. And unlike any proper alchemical lab, there's a number of scripted features here, including ingredient sorting, a scripted alchemical set that allows you to use it without actually picking anything up, books that describe the magical effects of ingredients, and a desk that will temporarily increase your enchanting skill. There's also a study or office on the uppermost floor, which is fairly small, but again comes with quite a few features, including a crystal ball, a teleport amulet for getting back home, and a book of evocations. Basically, this tome has instructions and a number of spells that you can use to permanently summon a creature or data-like companion. These aren't, temporary summon spells, and as such, they do, require a few more ingredients in order to cast them. You'll also find a library with a wide range of magical spells, so if there's any that you haven't learned yet, as the Archmage, you can use these tomes to potentially learn these spells. And finally, there's a teleport pad that can take you to any of the mages guilds in Morrowind, or at least, the ones on Vardenfell anyway. Overall, while this, isn't a massive or grand abode, this is certainly a pretty neat home for someone who, manages to become the Archmage, with a central tower in Ebonheart, which, by the way, includes a balcony overlooking the Ascadian Isles, as well as just a number of suitably magical features, with the alchemy lab, ingredient garden, and a study. And really, this is just a nice central office or player home for you to call your own. But anyway, finally, our last house mod today is Archmage's Quarters by Mage Lord 648. And yeah, I know, we just did a house mod for the Mages Guild, and here's another one. But to be honest, most of the faction-based housing out there does tend to be geared towards the Mages Guild more than anything. So we kind of just, have to make do. In any event, this adds a new flat that you can unlock by becoming the Archmage, with access inside the branch of the Mages Guild in Vivec. It's a fairly small flat, just a single room with a bed, some storage, and a built-in alchemy lab, with ingredient containers and alchemical equipment. Like Antares mod, this comes with a fair number of, scripted features, including an ingredient sorter, an enchantment lectern, that makes it easier to enchant items. The alchemical equipment is scripted to give you a bonus in alchemy, and you can also use it without having to pick up each individual piece. And there's also a special set of Archmage robes in the closet that you can use. In any event, this is a pretty small but fairly nice little home for an Archmage, type character. Perhaps a little too small for such an in-game abode, but it does come with a number of scripted features, an alchemy lab, and a bit of storage. It might be well suited as just, a secondary home or a drop-off point for, when you're in Vivec. But either way, it's a neat little potential addition here. And, well, that's all for today. As always, down links are down below. And I would like to just, take a moment to thank our patrons for making this video possible, including Area 5/Sunbalmean, Billy Fighter, Quiwi, Cyprinius, Danae, Deliant, Danina, Yame Alcazio Castilernau, Julian, Langastier, Macbone, Melkor Dog, Nalcascade, Old Navy Twidget, Operator Jack, Port Hughes, Povuholo, Rissaleaf, Shuda, Soga Cat, Stiff Kitten, Telvani with 1,000 nicknames, and 2-timing Trauma Rude. If you'd like to join them, check out our rewards, including early access, behind-the-scenes content, and access to polls to decide what kind of content we showcase. Visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/Morrowind Modding. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, stay healthy, happy modding, and I'll see you all next time.